Hey there, wonderful teachers. Today I have a quick, ranty thought for you. I want to talk to you about method book disloyalty. Let's define method book loyalty, as we might call it, although I might want to call it something else. I'm talking about teachers who only use one method. And I'm hesitating because I don't want you to feel like I'm judging you if that's what you do, or like I'm saying you're wrong. All I'm saying here is that it's something I could never do. And that there's some part of me that doesn't really get it. So let me unpack why, and why it kind of rubs me up the wrong way when we're determined to only use one method across an entire studio. There's nothing wrong with having a favorite, and that's not what I'm talking about here. And there's nothing wrong with any type of teaching, really. But having a favorite is different to having an identity. And that's what I see sometimes, which is I'm a this teacher. And I don't really care what this is. It's not all the same to me. There are different things that if that's your main thing, maybe that's better than if that's your main thing. But for the sake of today, I'm not making any judgments on that. That's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about the idea of being dogmatic with what method book you use in your studio. Of having this idea that you are a piano adventures teacher, or a piano safari teacher, or an Alfred teacher, or an anything else. And I know I've already rubbed some of you up the wrong way, and I hate doing that. But I still want us to think this through, okay? So just go with me, and if you disagree, that's fine. Let's have it out. But let's think about this. What does it mean to be loyal to a certain method? Well, one aspect of why I don't love this approach, this way of thinking about yourself as a teacher, is that it necessarily implies a certain level of rigidity, of thinking, this is how I do things, and the student must conform to that. Now, on the flip side, I don't really love when people say they're entirely student-led and they don't use any method. Sometimes that is good, but sometimes it's code for I'm just gonna do no work outside of lessons and just work with whatever's in front of me and be a reactive teacher. But that's a whole other story for another day. And stick with the method book loyalty idea. If you're so stuck to a particular set of books, do you have room to still work with the student? Well, you do. You may be arguing with me right now that you do, and that's true. But a lot of teachers who do stick with one method maybe don't always deviate. So some teachers use one method because they literally couldn't care less really what method book they use, because they're just going to do their own thing and only use little bits of it anyway. And that's kind of a different thing too. But if we're so stuck to one specific method book series, we're kind of stuck to a certain way of viewing music lessons, students, how they should progress, how quickly they should move through things, what they should do and what they should not do. Because every method book has things they leave out. Because they have to. Because otherwise they would give you this massive tome like an old-fashioned phone book, and how would anybody possibly get through that, right? Because that's what including everything music could possibly offer a beginner student would be like. And that's really the point of method books, is to choose what to leave out, what to put in first, what to leave for later, and what to prioritize. That's their job. That's why they're written. It's to have this progression built in, right? And that's why it's great. I also want to say, alongside saying in general, I'm not judging any teacher who does this, I'm not saying specifically to beginner teachers that they should not just use one method. Because I think if you're just starting out, you have a few students, and it's your first couple of years of teaching, I think you should explore other methods that are out there. But if you're only comfortable using one for now, because everything is so new, that's fair enough, okay? I'm talking about using the same method book for years and years and years and years with every student, which is what some teachers do. So it irks me a bit because it maybe implies that we're not adapting to each student, that we're not planning for different students, and that we're not being creative with our own take on teaching. This video is brought to you by Vivid Practice. Keeping students accountable doesn't have to be complicated. VividPractice.com helps music teachers manage assignments effortlessly while encouraging smarter practice habits. With an intuitive teacher portal, progress tracking, and built-in messaging, you get all the tools that matter without the extra fuss. Designed by music teachers for music teachers. Sign up for free at vividpractice.com and simplify your studio today. I think the reason why it's bothered me right from the start, though, actually stems from somewhere else. So let me take you there. And that is the world of piano exams. Which, if you're in the US or some other parts of the world, you might be like, huh, what? What's a piano exam? But here in Ireland, in the UK, in Australia, to some extent in New Zealand and Canada, it is just standard that students do piano exams. In fact, in many of these places, if you talk to a random person on the street and you say, I'm a piano teacher, at least here they will say, do you do the grades? Or do you do exams with your students? Like, that's the first thing they think of, not what type of music do you like? Or, I don't know, how much did your piano cost? Something else. Just ask something else. It's kind of become synonymous. And there's maybe some good in that, but I think there's a lot of harm too. I have seen what happens when students go through just doing the exams. And teachers will be in a mindset where they just do the exam syllabus and they do nothing else with their students. And I have had teachers in real life tell me that they pick the 3 pieces that all their grades 2 students will do for that year. They do those with everyone. They don't even let their student choose their 3 pieces out of the 6 that are available. And they say it's because it's easier. Now, this is not every teacher, but this really bothers me. I'm not saying you shouldn't do things to make your life as a teacher easier. You should. I'd love you to. I think many of us make it way too difficult, right? We work way too hard. But then there are those teachers out there who just want to go through the motions. It hurts me for their students, but it also hurts me for them. I don't want to come across as trying to control what they do, because I'm not trying to do that. But still, I look at a teacher who just wants to do the same narrow set of pieces for a whole year, or several years if there's a cycle of several years in an exam syllabus, and think, where did your love of this go? Or was it never there? Do you not like music? I mean, I'm sorry, but do you not? Because I just can't imagine that. I do get the ease of it. And again, I'm not talking to beginner teachers here. I'm talking about veteran teachers who feel so jaded to me in the way that they're approaching this. Now, back to method books, because method books are not exams. They're a lot more well-rounded. There's a lot more to them. And they are designed as a learning progression, unlike an exam, which is meant to be an assessment of learning, not the learning in and of itself, right? But with a method book, we still come across the same issue, which is if you stick to the one method book for 30 students every year, without fail, for 30 years, how can you not be so bored of those pieces? And I say this as someone who is particularly not bothered by doing the same piece again and again. Like, honestly, I don't mind teaching for Elise or Happy Birthday or whatever else comes up again and again. Because if the student is excited about it, I am too. That can only be true up to a certain point. I don't think you can come across as enthusiastic about teaching that same brand new beginner piece in that method that you've been using forever. Maybe you can, and that's great. But I think a lot of teachers, they do just get lulled into this like complacency when they're using the same book again and again. And this may not be true in every case, but it has this aura of not learning anything new yourself. Because if you're using the same method book simply because you already know how it works, are you a lifelong learner yourself? Are you still learning? Are you still growing? Are you still open to doing things that are hard at first, but maybe rewarding? If you're doing the same method book because you think it is the best and you continue to research new ones and test them and try them and decide, no, you still prefer whatever it was you were at previously, that's a bit different. But if you're just doing it because it's already there, and you already know how it works, and it works just fine, maybe there's room for something else. Maybe there's room for learning something new or trying something different and keeping things interesting. And having that spark of new music. A piece that you can say to your student genuinely, honestly, oh my gosh, that duet sounded great, didn't it? I hadn't tried that one before and that sounds awesome. Let's do it again. Like, don't we want to be able to say that? You can't say that about everything all the time. And you do have to have some boundary. Like, if you use a new method with every single student you ever have, you will be lost all the time, and that sounds stressful. But I think there's a balance. I think there's also a place for understanding that the method book doesn't tell you what to do, you tell it what to do. I was talking about those teachers who, yeah, they stick to the same method book, but really they do a totally different thing every time. And that's another argument for it. For me, I hope I will always be method book disloyal. Many of you will have heard me talk about Piano Safari in particular, because it's my favourite. On balance, it's my favourite. But it's not the only one I use. I'm not loyal to it. And I will try other things. I'll try new things that come along. I'll try old things that I hadn't used before. And I'll stay open. I won't be reckless using random different methods that of unknown quality on a brand new student who doesn't know how to dissuade me from that and may be affected by it. But I will explore new methods, and I will continue to have several favourites that apply to different students in different ways, and I'll continue to do things differently to every single method book because there's always going to be something I disagree with. Every method book is a compromise, and some of those are the compromises I would have made, and some of them are not. So, let me know. Are you loyal to a certain method? Have I offended you? Maybe you're gone already, so I'm not talking to you because you're not here. But are you on the same page as me? Do you disagree with me? I'm happy to have the discussion. This is not about stepping on toes. It's about opening up different ways of thinking about method books as a tool, how they fit in our studio, and maybe in general, things we are loyal to. Things we do a certain way because we've always done them a certain way. And sometimes we need to question that. And sometimes we'll arrive at the conclusion that, yes, that was already the correct way. Like, I've tried the other ways again. I was right the first time. But sometimes we'll find something new. So, I hope you're open to trying new things. Let me know how you feel about method books, how many different ones you use in your studio, or whether you just stick to one and why. I'd love to hear your thoughts.